Look up from your screen for just a second and find the nearest window through it. Light is pouring in, you can see the sky, and you know instantly whether it is day or night, sunny or gray. Now imagine that every single window in your home is bricked up solid. No glass, no view, no daylight, just blank walls on every side of you. Your whole home becomes a sealed box. You would need the lights burning every hour of the day. You would lose all sense of time and weather, and the air would slowly turn stale and stuffy. The window does something that sounds almost impossible. It is a hole in your wall that lets in light and air and a view of the entire world, while keeping the cold, the rain, and everyone outside firmly where they belong. This is your life without windows. It is 9 in the morning, but inside your bricked-up home, it is pitch black. You fumble around for a light switch because without windows, there is no such thing as daytime indoors at all. Every single room now needs a lamp burning all day, forever. Flip them off for even a moment, and you are standing in a cave. Then you begin to notice the air with no windows to open. Nothing moves at all. The smell of last night's dinner just hangs there in the dark. The bathroom never clears. The rooms grow warm, thick, and stuffy, and you find yourself weirdly tired and headachy because a sealed box slowly fills up with stale air and the moisture of your own breath. And there is something worse. Something you feel more than you see. You have no idea at all what is happening in the world outside. Is it raining? Is it sunny? Is it morning or evening? You simply cannot tell. You are completely cut off. Human beings are wired to sunlight because it sets our body clock, lifts our mood, and keeps us healthy, and locked in a dark box day after day. People genuinely start to feel low, sluggish, and strange. And you slowly begin to understand that the window was never just a hole in the wall. It was your home's eye on the world, and your daily dose of the sun. So how did people get light and air into their homes before the clear glass window even existed? The whole story is a tug-of-war that lasted thousands of years because a window is a genuinely awkward invention. You want a hole in your wall to let the light and the air in and to let the smoke out. But that very same hole also lets in the exact things you are trying to keep out: the cold, the rain, the wind, the insects, and the thief. For most of history, you basically had to choose between light and shelter. You could, very rarely, have both at once. The earliest windows were simply that, just holes. They were plain openings cut into a wall or a roof to let a little light in and to let the cooking smoke escape. And the name itself still remembers this. Our word window comes from an Old Norse phrase that literally means wind. An eye in the wall that the wind blows straight through. That tells you exactly what an early window really was, which is a breezy little hole that you looked out of. To take the edge off, people covered these holes with whatever they happened to have. The most basic cover of all was the wooden shutter, a solid flap you swung closed at night or in bad weather. But of course, once you shut the shutter, you also shut out every last bit of light, and you were straight back to darkness again. So people went searching for something better, a material that could block the weather, but still somehow let the light through. They tried an amazing range of things. They stretched thin animal hide or cloth soaked in oil to make it translucent across the opening. They used paper specially treated to survive the wind and rain. They used thin, scraped sheets of animal horn, and in some places, even thin slices of translucent stone like alabaster, which glowed softly whenever the sun struck them. In hot lands, people carved intricate wooden lattice screens that broke the harsh sunlight into cool patterns while still letting the breeze slip through. One of the most elegant solutions of all appeared in East Asia. In Japan, the shoji screen used a light wooden lattice covered over with translucent paper. It let a soft, even genuinely beautiful light fill the whole room. It gave privacy, and it could slide right open in an instant. A gentle, glowing window made of nothing but paper and wood, many centuries before cheap glass ever reached ordinary homes. But the real dream, the holy grail of windows, was a single material that was hard, weatherproof, and through all at the very same time. That material was glass. Humans had been making glass for jewelry and for vessels for a very long time, but turning it into flat, clear window panes was fiendishly difficult. It was the Romans, around 2,000 years ago, who first set small panes of glass into the openings of their grandest villas and their bathhouses. This early window glass was small, thick, cloudy, and slightly greenish, so you could not really see through it clearly at all, but it let the light in while keeping the weather out. And that alone was a small, everyday miracle. For well over 1,000 years after that, clear glass stayed rare and hugely expensive, a true luxury reserved for the rich. Ordinary medieval homes still made do with small openings, wooden shutters, and perhaps a bit of oiled cloth. When people did manage to use glass, it came only in small pieces, because large flat sheets were nearly impossible to make. So the panes were cut into little diamonds and squares and held together in a web of thin lead strips. The crisp, cross-leaded windows you can still see in very old houses today. Glass was so precious that when a wealthy family moved house, they would sometimes carefully take the glass windows with them and simply leave the empty frames behind. A window could also be a genuine weakness that an enemy might climb straight through. So in dangerous times, they were deliberately made small and mean. The stone castles of the Middle Ages often had only narrow slit windows, barely wider than a hand, so that an archer could shoot out through them, while almost nothing at all could get back in. Comfort and light came a very distant second to simply not being killed. The grandest use of glass of all was color. Skilled craftsmen slowly learned how to make deep jewel, light-colored panes, and to fit them into enormous windows in the great cathedrals and halls, filling the vast stone interiors with drifting pools of colored light. These giant windows were spectacular feats of craftsmanship and staggering displays of sheer wealth and power, living proof of just how precious and how close to magical a big glass window still was. In those days, as glass slowly grew a little more common, the window itself started to become cleverer. In the cooler countries, the sash window appeared, with panes set into a wooden frame that slid smoothly up and down on hidden counterweights, so that you could open just the top or just the bottom and let the fresh air flow exactly as you wished. Long rows of these tall, elegant windows gave whole streets of houses their familiar and orderly face. Because windows were seen everywhere as a clear sign of wealth, they eventually even got themselves taxed. In the year 1696, England brought in a window tax, and the rule was simple. The more windows your house happened to have, the more money you paid. The result was strange and honestly a little sad. To dodge the tax, people simply bricked up their own windows, and you can still spot old houses today with neat blank rectangles of brick where the windows used to be. Some people even claim that the phrase daylight robbery comes from this very tax, though that link is genuinely debated. The window tax lasted for more than 150 years before it was finally scrapped in 1851. What finally made windows cheap enough for absolutely everyone was, of course, industry. Bit by bit, glassmakers got better and better at producing larger, flatter, and clearer sheets, first crown glass, and then polished plate glass, steadily growing bigger all through the 1700s and 1800s. But the true revolution finally came in 1959, when a British engineer named Alastair Pilkington perfected the float glass process. Molten glass was floated out across a smooth bed of liquid tin, where it cooled into a perfectly flat, perfectly clear, flawless sheet, cheaply and almost endlessly. Very nearly every window and glass wall that you have ever looked through was made in exactly this way. Float glass is the reason a modern building can be wrapped entirely in enormous, crystal clear panes, and the reason your home today is so full of light. There was still one last problem left to solve. A plain single sheet of glass makes a rather poor blanket, and heat pours straight out through it, which is exactly why so much warmth quietly escapes through the windows of a house. The answer was double glazing, which seals two panes together with a thin layer of trapped air or gas held between them, so that a modern window can at last let the light in while keeping most of the precious heat inside. So what did the window really give us, in the end? It quite literally let the light in. For most of history, the inside of a home was a dark, dim, closed-off sort of place, and daylight was something you found mostly outdoors. The window pulled the sun indoors and completely changed how we live, because now we could read, work, cook, and simply see, without ever burning a lamp, and rooms became bright and open instead of gloomy little caves. It also gave us the view, that genuinely priceless connection to the outside world. A window lets you watch the rain without getting wet, see the seasons slowly turn, check the weather, and feel joined to the sky and the street, all from inside a warm and dry room. That connection turns out to matter enormously for our health and our mood. Sunlight coming through a window helps to set our body clock and to lift our spirits, which is exactly why a room with a good window simply feels so much better to be in than a windowless box, and why hospitals filled with daylight can genuinely help their patients to heal faster. When people are shut away from daylight for too long, through the dark months of winter or inside a windowless workplace, a great many genuinely feel their mood quietly sink, an effect now well known enough to have earned a name of its very own. We do not simply like our windows in a quiet, almost biological way, it seems that we actually need them. And it reshaped our buildings completely. Once big, cheap, strong glass finally existed, architects could do the once unthinkable and replace whole walls with sheets of glass. People had already caught a glimpse of what was coming. Back in 1851, the very same year that the window tax finally died, a vast palace built almost entirely from iron and glass, nicknamed the Crystal Palace, was raised in London and astonished nearly everyone who saw it. A building that you could see straight through, and that was completely flooded with daylight, felt at the time like something beamed in from the future. The soaring glass office towers of every modern city, the wall-sized windows in our homes, the greenhouse and the bright shop front. Every last one of them is really just the humble wind. All grown up and remade out of flawless, invisible glass. So the next time you glance out of a window without a single thought, at the weather, at a passing bird, or at nothing in particular at all, take one moment to remember what you are truly looking through. It is a solid wall that you can somehow see straight through, and that the sunshine can pour straight into. A genuine piece of everyday magic that human beings chased for thousands of years. Through oiled cloth and paper and horn and thin strips of lead. It is your home's own window onto the whole world, in the most literal sense there could ever be. See you in the next one.